It felt like yesterday we were drafting our team. And with all the hours we put in, all the tough decisions, it all comes down to this game, the Fantasy Championship. So today, Week 18, start sit decisions for you. If you have any questions about your lineup or you just want a second opinion, it's the holiday. Drop it in the comments and I'll get back to everyone before kickoff. Let's kick off this video with accountability. Last week, if you see a green strip, we got it right. Red, we got it wrong. A bit of a down week 5 and 3, but on the year, about 70% there in the bottom right. Let's kick off the list here with a cash cow for these videos, Xavier Worthy, a guy that's been the wide receiver 20 over the last month of football, giving us 15 fantasy points a game, right? So he's been dominant over this last couple months, and his production continues to go up and up despite a guy like Hollywood Brown coming back into the mix. Over the last month, about 6 targets, 6 receptions, and 50 yards a game, right? Some touchdowns in that mix as well. But here's the thing. He's had at least 11 targets over the last 2 weeks. He has a good game here coming up against Pittsburgh. Tough defense, but if they win, they get the #1 seed. So it's a must-win game. And I think Xavier Worthy, with his speed, is going to be utilized in a lot of different ways. We're going to start him here in this must-win Christmas Day game. This one might shock you, but let's move over to Darnell Mooney, a guy that last week in Michael Penix's debut had 6 targets, 5 receptions, and 80 yards on the day. Almost had a touchdown, right? But there was a penalty call that held it back. Regardless, it's a must-win game this week on the road versus the Washington Commanders. If they win, they keep their playoff hopes alive. If they lose, well, they're pretty much out of it. So it could be a potential shootout. Washington gives up a lot of points to slot receivers, and Michael Penix, being a rookie, he's going to have those safe, consistent throws, and that is usually to the slot receivers. Darnell Mooney, even though they're on the road, young quarterback, I like to start him as well. Let's close off the year with beating a dead horse, and I hate to say that, but CJ Stroud has been struggling in fantasy football as of late. Now, I will say he's at home. If they win this game against the Baltimore Ravens on Christmas Day, they potentially could move up to the 3 seed if some cards fall their way, but outside of having Nico Collins and Joe Mixon, he's facing a tough defense. Tank Dell is now out for the season, and this team just hasn't looked great really since the midseason mark. So CJ Stroud on Christmas Day, I don't think he's going to be Santa. I think he's going to be the Grinch. And again, we drafted him to be a great quarterback, but he hasn't been that this year. We're going to sit him on Christmas Day and go different directions. One quarterback that you could go to is Baker Mayfield, a guy that might not be out there on the waivers, but I like his matchup this week despite losing, right? A game that they shouldn't have this past week. They need to bounce back and they need to win out to make the playoffs. And again, I like betting on players that have stuff to play for. So Baker Mayfield, we like him there. Now, Chase Brown might be my gimme of the week, but again, tough matchup against the Broncos on paper. But again, must win for the Bengals. He's going to be utilized in every way possible. Xavier Worthy, we talked about. Darnell Mooney, we talked about. Juwan Jennings, I like this week to bounce back in a huge way against the Detroit Lions. They don't have the greatest secondary, and even though Trent Williams is out, the Niners aren't just going to roll over, right? They have history with this team in last year's playoffs. They're going to have something to play for, at least morally, and I think Juwan Jennings is going to have a pretty decent day there. Now, the Colts defense are facing the New York Giants. It's Drew Lock. Do I need to explain anymore? If you can get the Colts defense, they might win you your fantasy championship. Now, Jerome Ford is the other guy, and it really comes down to, I'm a Browns fan, and I hate betting on my Cleveland Browns. But again, tough matchup this week against the Miami Dolphins. Unless he gets 6 to 7 receptions in that game, I can't see him having a pretty big day. A lot of his success last week was based on one big run, which was the first play of the game against the Cincinnati Bengals. But that's going to do it. It's been a tremendous season. Thank you guys for all your support for all 17 of these videos this year. But if you have any questions about your lineup or you just want a second opinion, drop it in the comments, and I promise you I'll get back to you before kickoff.